Hi everyone, my name is Natalia.
My name is Arun and we are Team Red.
Yeah, so episode 3 of The Amazing Race aired, and we've been getting a lot of questions. And here we are in my childhood room right now doing this recap. But we wanted to answer some of those questions and shed a bit of light on what happened almost 2 years ago that day in Glasgow.
We have had sleepless nights thinking what decisions we made in that leg. And this race makes you make some crazy decisions, and that's a decision we have to live with all our lives.
So yeah, let's start. Like we ended that second leg in London, and then we found out that we were gonna go on the train to Glasgow. And then we had gone third, so we were like kind of a little bit bummed because we're like, oh, it's probably gonna be an equalizer, but we still felt pretty good, and the train ride was pretty cool.
The train ride was very good. We got some sleep. We had been racing for 2 days, so we got some sleep and we were ready to roll.
Yeah, and then you see us all, we're running off of the train, and we knew we were probably going to be self driving. So, one of the things is once we ran off the train, we did get a map, and I think that might have actually been our first big mistake is the map we got was very zoomed in on like the city center of Glasgow, and it wasn't very detailed. And there's actually one unaired task where we had to drive outside of the city to do it. It actually took a lot of teams, like it was a long drive, like 90 minutes probably
It
before
was
we even get.
almost, from what I recollect, it was almost about 35 or 40 kilometers. So that was a long drive with not having a GPS and doing self navigation. It was a long drive.
So it wasn't like we just like all got off the train and then we're headed towards the bagpipe challenge. There was a lot of getting lost and navigating before we even went to Oranmore, which kind of gives you the idea of what kind of mindset all the teams' heads were in even before we even got to the bagpipes.
So once we started going to Oranmore, what happened is you when you look to ask for directions, it tells you to go to a bar, it tells you to go to a hotel. So we were actually going to a hotel, or actually a bar, and Natalia, thanks to Natalia, she said, "Dad, look, there's a clue box," and that's how we happened to we got lucky and found the clue box as we were driving to a different place.
Yeah, we had a very similar experience to Pen and Kim on that we were going somewhere else and then we just look over and I'm like, is that Warrenmore? Like, so yeah, we found it by accident as well. And so at that point, we were like middle of the pack going to the bagpipes and we were there, you hear the music. So I'm like, I've been doing, like, I played instruments. So I was like, oh, this is me, I'll do it. And we go in and then you have to assemble the bagpipe. And I live like 8 minutes from an IKEA. And half of our furniture's from IKEA, so we're used to like putting together IKEA furniture. So like following the directions for that bagpipe wasn't difficult.
Natalie did a great job with the bagpipe. She was able to get it assembled, and she had a little bit difficult time playing the note, but she got it done pretty fast.
And then something I think that wasn't really shown is that while I was assembling the bagpipe, I could kind of hear in the background. I think Sam was like, he was like waiting or trying to like ask for help, but I was ignoring them. And then obviously you see when I come off and finish, something Sam said also that it wasn't aired is like, oh, there's plenty of teams behind us. Like, will you please help? And at that point, I felt bad. I'm like, okay, let me just help them quickly. Like, there are teams behind us, and obviously, you saw what happened, but I don't think that's what cost us that, like, at all. And it wasn't, you said 5 minutes. What was shown on TV was basically the extent of the help that I gave them.
I didn't have an issue with you helping them. I mean, we always make it was we knew that we were in the middle of the pack. I didn't want you to stay there for a long time and help them. But that's not the reason. What exactly happened? That was just part of the thing, the leg.
Yeah, and so then we leave Oranmore, and there's actually a shop right next door is where you see us. That's literally right next door to Oranmore, where we're trying to get directions. And for us, we wanted to make sure, since we were struggling with the self-navigation, that we got good directions initially. Because if you stop to get directions again, that's just costing you more time. So you want to make sure the first time that you get directions, it's good. And so that's why we were taking that a little bit extra time just to make sure that again, we didn't have a good map, so whatever directions that we were getting, we really relied on. So that's where you see us, and then obviously see the other teams finish and run out while we're getting directions.
And one of the reasons, even though we left earlier in the Bagpipe Challenge than the other teams, what happened is when we started driving from that, we took a left instead of taking the right, which made us lose about 15 minutes because there are a lot of one-sided roads in Glasgow. So we got to the Barrel Challenge about 15 minutes late.
So now we get to the Barrel Challenge, we find it, and so at this point, our mindset, we've just been lost. Several teams have passed us since we've finished the roadblock, and so we're honestly in a state of panic, and it's already starting to be a long day, and so when we get there, we are just a hot mess at that Barrel Challenge, and we walk in, and all the teams are kind of starting to progress, and the one thing is we didn't actually see a demo when we walked in, so we were so confused. We're like, they tell you, like refurbish the barrel, but we didn't know what the process was. And I saw maybe like when some teams came in, like someone came in was like demonstrating directly to them. Like we didn't realize, and I think the person doing the demo finally came in and started doing it.
The biggest thing what I want people to know is, we got in the middle of the demonstration, and so we didn't see the demonstrations from the beginning. That was the big mistake. We should have just waited for the demonstration to start, because when you guys see they're trying to tap the ring into the barrel, whereas we should be tapping out, because we've seen the team do it. So we just were waiting for the demonstration to start, but in meantime we still didn't want to just stand there and do nothing. I also want to clarify something. People have been saying that, oh, Arun has never held a hammer in his life and he's a white collar. I work in the restaurant industry. I'm a hands-on person. I know how to use the hammer. So, but we should have waited, and that was a big mistake.
And the Barrel Challenge wasn't all strength, it was technique, and we obviously just didn't know what the process was watching the demo or what the proper technique was. And we did ask Raquel and Kayla at one point, like, how do you do this? And they said, use this certain part of the tool.
Yes, they did.
But we just didn't understand. And when you watch it back, you're like, it's so straightforward. Yeah, remove the top rings. Like, until I even saw it on TV, I didn't realize that's what exactly we were supposed to do. I thought we had to remove all the rings. And just knowing exactly what we had to do was why we were confused. And I looked over at you. You didn't know what you were doing. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I'm like, I don't feel confident right now. And so I thought, maybe, how hard is it to sing a couple of sentences? And at that point, we didn't realize how far the other detour was, because the Barrel Challenge was pretty close to the park. So we were thinking, oh, like the other one might not be that far. Like all these teams, and in the edit, it seems like, yeah, they got it like right after we left, but they weren't that far in when we got there. And so teams were still struggling, and we talked to all the teams, and it was a hard challenge for people. And so we're like, last leg, we chose the kind of unpopular with the darts detour, and we were able to pass teams. Maybe the singing challenge won't be that bad, and we can actually pass some of these teams if we go there. Obviously, like, terrible mistake that we regretted and thought about multiple times in the past 2 years, but that's kind of where our mindset was at that point.
And I should have been, when Nat came up and said, hey, Dad, you want to switch the channel? I said, I'm not too sure if I can memorize the song. That's my weakest. If you look at my bio for the race, it'll tell you the weakest thing is that singing and dancing. I hope we don't get singing and dancing. And I was a little bit hesitant, but I think if I look at what happened, I should have just told Nat, hey, let's stay for another 15-20 minutes. Let's figure this out. And I think that's a mistake which we have to live with.
Yeah, and I'm a very indecisive person just in general. And you even saw in the second leg in London where we had the darts and I asked you, like, should we switch? And you were like, no, like, let's try this for 15 minutes. And that's kind of like what we need is, like, I think that we learned is, like, one person just needs to be, like, affirmative, and, like, we can't be too nice to each other moving forward.
And if we had stayed at the Barrel Challenge, we would have figured it out. We literally, when you look at the race, it was in the middle of the day when we went to the Barrel Challenge. When we got done with the singing and dancing, it was late night. So we literally had 6-7 hours to figure out the Barrel Challenge. So I guess that's a mistake. I don't even know what to say again and again. That was not a very smart decision from us.
But anyways, we leave the barrel, and then now we realize we need to get directions, and that's I think where our heart sank when we started to realize how far it was actually from where we were. But at that point, we couldn't keep switching back and forth. We just had to choose a decision and move forward with it, and we decided, okay, let's go. And we eventually get there, and thinking like at this point we're probably in last, like that decision just screwed us. But we just wanted to move forward, and you were killing it on learning that fast, because we always joke growing up that you don't know any songs, and I have no idea why we went to that detour, first of all, but it was like, maybe I can help coach you through it, we'll be fine, like singing a couple sentences, like it can't be that bad. And obviously you see us trying, and then when Taylor and Isaiah come in, we're like, okay, there's hope, like we're not actually last, like maybe no, there's no way we could have made it. Yes.
See, the thing is, you also I already have an accent, but then the Scottish accent is so different than the American accent and the Indian accent. So it was more about not only learning how to sing and dance, but the pronunciation, the trues, and so that there was so many. Lulu and Lala are been dancing all their life. It took them 12 tries to get that. I think it probably took us 15 to 20 tries. So it was a challenge, but but I guess by changing the detour, that really literally killed us.
Yeah, and then we saw obviously Shireen Akbar come through, and at that point,
Isaiah and Taylor also came later than us, and they were able to get the challenge done like this, and moved on.
Akbar was doing his Jedi mind tricks with us. I love that part. And so we end up finishing last there, and then we now have to drive to the University of Glasgow, and we don't know where that is. And again, like, we want to make sure we have good directions. We actually didn't leave that far behind Shireen Akbar. So we still had hope. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we're out of this. We knew they were having trouble getting directions and navigating throughout the day, because they showed up really late at that detour. And so we were like, okay, if we can just get straight shot to the University of Glasgow, we might still be in this.
And then also it had got dark at that time, so it was very difficult to see. There was not much of street lights, so we couldn't see the signs, the road signs also. That also was making it difficult for us to follow with the navigation details we had got. So overall, it was just, we didn't make some smart decisions in this leg, and that's how we got to come last and get eliminated in this leg.
And there was that moment, there was like the shop we were asking directions right by the theater. And some people were asking us, like, why are you spending so much time having this emotional breakdown in this shop? But we were actually getting a map printed out for us at that point. They were in the back printing us a map. And so that's what we were waiting for them to give us that map so we could follow it. So that's when you see us kind of have that emotional conversation.
The lessons we learned in this leg is watch the demonstration before you start on any task, and ask more questions, or be patient, trust each other a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think, one of us has to be dominant in certain situations where some of us might be indecisive. Definitely not switching detours ever again. Just sticking really solid with our first choice. And
don't switch detours in a self-driving challenge that I would say it was dumb as not the word. It's probably...
We made rookie mistakes, and it's crazy because all these things watching the show, and then when the adrenaline and your stress is really high, your mental state just makes you make these poor decisions. And obviously, we're watching it back and like, why did we leave that challenge? Like, we look so stupid the way we're hammering there. And like, we do do-it-yourself home projects like all the time. Like, it's not like we haven't done things like that before. And it's just that it's until you're in that situation, it's hard to understand what the stress can do to your decision making.
Like I said earlier, in that I'm in the restaurant industry, I make decisions like this all the time, every day, but I didn't make it on the race. So that's why I have to have sleep. Almost a week after the race ended, I didn't sleep because I just couldn't live with the decision we had made. And I know we are better than that.
Stay tuned for next week to see if we learned our lessons.
And last 2 years has been crazy. Even stranger things have happened. You never know what's going to happen. So just stay tuned.
Yeah, are we going to be the Chris Underwoods of the Amazing Race? You have to watch and find out.
Go Red Team.